This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
That's Henry. Toothless chocolate Dobby.
What episode is this? 69, 70? You did... Last one I did was 67. So would this be 69?
It must be. Because I have it... I wrote this a long time ago, so I have it labeled as 67, but it is not. So I think you're right. I think it might be 69 or 68. 68 or 69.
But didn't you do a full one with Mark?
I did last week.
So the last one I did was 67 is what I'm saying.
So Mark was 68, so this is 69.
Okay.
69 episodes.
That doesn't seem like that much.
It doesn't at all. Sometimes I look at other podcasts and I'm like, 320 episodes.
Wait. Oh.
You know who else is on our network? Our ad sales network. So Ad Large is our ad sales company that is so nice to continue working with us after Cavalry. And they've joined something called the Forward Network, which is an all-woman network. And you know what show is part of that network? Going West.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Love that show.
Yeah. I only know that show from you, but yeah, they're on our network.
Oh, that's interesting because the last one you published, I'm just looking at Spotify right now. Mm-hmm. The Murder of Bruce Weinstein. Mm-hmm. 67.
Yeah, I might be off with the numbers. I know.
I'm not. It doesn't. I don't think anyone fucking cares about the numbers. I do,
Your
though.
Face right now.
You know, I care.
You were like, oh, I can't handle it.
Satsi Sanchez is the last one I did, I believe.
That was 66, right?
You put it at 65.
Oh.
So why do I have it at 67?
Well,
we'll navigate that later.
I'm not great at keeping up with the numbers.
Yeah, we'll navigate that later.
Okay.
Or we won't.
So this is 67. And this is actually, we're going to do this one. Well, I'm going to.
No, this is 68.
68.
According to.
Or 9.
No, 68.
So we're going to do this one, or I'm going to tell this story a little bit differently than how we normally do. And we'll see how it goes. No guarantees.
Perfect.
It takes place in Las Vegas.
Like Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yep. And so the episode that I did last week with Mark also took place in Las Vegas. And I spent a bit of time talking about the mob influence in Las Vegas, which I didn't know much about. I had known that the mob was a big part of Vegas in the early days. Of course, I don't have it right in front of me, but I want to say, was it Bugsy Siegel? Somebody started the Flamingo, which was one of like the first hotels. The mob just had a huge hand. So if you listened last week, the first 20 minutes of the episode are talking all about the mob in Vegas in the like 40s and 50s. They saw the potential for profit, and they were Bugsy Siegel was instrumental in the development of the Flamingo Hotel, which was one of the first resorts on the Strip.
So we're talking like 40s, 50s. Okay,
right.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and that's like when the mob was really invested in Vegas, because they saw a lot of opportunity to make money from the gambling. And mobsters controlled many of the early casinos and hotels, and also used these casinos and hotels to launder money from their other kind of illegal bootlegging, loan sharking, things like that. And so I did talk about that a bunch last week, but I realized what I didn't cover last week is I looked up like what are like some rumors or weird things about the mob in Vegas. And one of the biggest ones is that one of the persistent rumors, which is true, is that people who crossed the mob owed them money, never paid them. They were buried in the desert.
I was just going to say
Vegas.
where they were buried.
Yeah. Many bodies have been discovered, at the bottom of Lake Mead when the drought
I was
happened.
thinking about that.
Yeah, like tons of bodies were discovered that were believed to be from,
mob related
murders.
Yep.
Some people believe that the spirits of those who met untimely ends due to mob actions haunt certain casinos. The Flamingo is often considered a very haunted casino.
Oh, cool.
Despite the corporate takeover, some believe that the mob still has a hidden hand in certain aspects of Las Vegas. It's mostly speculative, but it adds an element of intrigue to the city's reputation.
Did a ghost just take over your voice? Like, you just totally came out with a different voice. Also, I get that maybe that was like something you don't believe, right? Like, I don't necessarily either, but wow.
Also, this one's interesting. There's rumors of secret tunnels beneath Las Vegas used by the mob for discreet travel and smuggling operations. There are some tunnels that actually do exist for practical purposes, but nobody knows, like...
I watched it happen. She went...
Indiana has this, like, stuffy that has no stuffing left, and she just, like, throws it around and plays with it.
I mean, that was a good throw.
And she just threw it right on the table, right in front of Jen.
See? It was like that, and then it... okay, so I hear that, and I bet it to be true, the secret tunnels.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the Denver airport. Can't not.
I have a great podcast recommendation.
I may have already listened to it, but tell me after.
Yeah,
I'll
just
write
tell
it
you after
on this paper.
Yeah, because it's a fictional podcast. So like scripted.
Tell me later.
Oh my God, it's so good. It takes place in the Denver tunnels underneath the airport, and it's so fascinating and interesting. Okay, you want me to throw this? Indiana's gotten into fetch lately. She's learning a little bit.
But there was something else you were saying in the underground of Vegas.
Yeah, the tunnels. A lot of people still believe that like the mob uses it to this day.
Yeah. Which I believe.
Yeah.
If there's a mob... Jesus, you guys are terrible throwers. If there's a mob presence, like why wouldn't they? If there are underground tunnels, why wouldn't they?
Totally. I have no idea. That's a lot. There's a lot of speculation because in the like 60s, 70s, 80s, corporations began to take over the casinos and really built up Vegas, and it was not nearly as mob kind of heavy. And that relates to this episode in a way that you will find out.
Oh, I thought it was just because it's Vegas.
No, it has a little bit to do with this episode. So we're going to actually start this episode by talking about the actual crime before we learn about anybody involved in it. So, on October 26th, 2003, Jerry Stone, who was a detective, gets heard about a 911 call from a father and son who said that they saw a coyote digging something in a dry lake bed outside, like in the desert surrounding Vegas. And I mentioned this last week. I really need to find a video or picture because I watched a documentary on this one, and to see what a dried lake bed.
I knew you were going to say that, and I'm rolling my eyes already in my head. I'm sorry. Because because I've lived here and seen like a dry lake bed. It's totally dried, right?
Right. No, I can like that's fine, but like the massiveness of this one.
Oh, it's a huge lake.
It was so massive. It just looked like, all that cracked, like a dried lake bed, which I understand. The cracked desert, but like it was so
vast
that I was watching this like, wow. It's just it was interesting to me, and I live here, but to somebody who's never seen that, like, whoa.
You know what makes me think?
What?
You should go turn off your sprinkler.
Because the ground is getting too saturated.
Your ground. Although I'm just kidding. But also that's what people can picture that, I think, if they've seen even it in media.
Right.
And of course, okay, I'm not going to get all into it. Let me back up. Things are drying out. Less rain.
Yes. Yeah.
And you said this was so I was picturing I don't know what, a smaller lake or pond or whatever. You said this is massive, vast.
It was very
so
vast.
That's what makes me say that. right?
Oh, that I'm yes. Oh, I
There
get
it is.
I get it. All connected for
Yep.
me just now.
Okay.
Yep.
Ooh, that is a cool image, though.
It was really like to see it. It was cool. I'll need to. I've said that for every episode. I'll need to post a
I
picture.
know you
and
should probably stop
I've
saying
posted
that.
none. So, but I
She'll
will with
think
this.
about posting it.
I'll think. I'm gonna get around to posting it. So, 911 gets a call. Father and son says we there's a coyote digging something in this dry lake bed out here in the desert. Around 10:30 a.m. that morning, first responders drive out to the location, and they come upon a really horrific sight. It was a very shallow grave. The smell of decomposition was very strong. They saw a portion of a body exposed. They saw a chest, a human face. It was slightly covered up, rocks, dirt, dust, etc. But it was a pretty shallow grave.
Sounds like they knew once they came upon it what they came upon,
Yes.
and also, whoa, it had a lot of elements to it.
It
And
did.
like stuff.
It did. So what was interesting is a body that's out in the desert like that. Now, October's not the hottest month here. So,
But in the midst of Vegas desert,
yeah, it still is going to decompose at a much faster rate.
probably almost 90 at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In October, yeah, it's still super warm in the middle of the desert.
Does that help the smell? For a period of time, I imagine it makes it worse. But I wondered if it ever like kind of took a turn where it burns it, like dries it up. I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Yes. Once it decomposes
Yeah.
enough, because it decomposes at a much faster rate. So
Right.
once it's just decomposed to like bones, then yeah, the smell
None.
dissipates.
Yeah.
This was not to that point yet.
Got it. Oh, well, that could give you a clue as to around how
How
long
long?
ago.
Which is very important in this story. So, but because it was in this shallow grave, it is very dry. They were not sure how to we want to preserve any evidence. We don't know what this is. At this point, they have no idea. So in order to safely
They
excavate.
don't know if it's a human, or they're just saying we don't know.
if it's a murder, if it's an
Got it.
accident.
Okay.
So in order to safely excavate the body and preserve as much evidence as possible, because the best place for evidence in a murder is on the actual body, they brought in an expert from Henderson, a nearby. I think we've talked about Henderson before.
I know someone from Henderson.
It's near Vegas.
It's a suburb.
Yeah. And so they brought in an expert from Henderson, a forensic anthropologist, who had lots of experience and training in actually excavating fossils.
That's
bodies.
what I was thinking. Like, I almost thought you were going to say an archaeologist, and I pictured someone
Very
with
similar.
a little brush with the most delicate of care.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they
Yep.
brought her in for.
Yep.
And so she said, I saw an interview with her, and she said, burying a body in Las Vegas is difficult, like very difficult, especially in a dry lake bed, because all of the water that used to be there seeps into the ground and it deposits all these minerals, and it makes the ground hard, almost as hard as cement. Not quite, but almost as hard as cement. So it is very hard to dig a hole in a dry lake bed.
Do you remember the last time? I keep saying the last time we recorded. I don't know. I brought up caliche, how it's hard to dig.
I know. I had already written this at
I'm
that
not
point.
saying that's the same as caliche.
I know, but when you brought it up in my head, I was like, I'd already written this, and I was like, yeah, relates.
Oh.
I was like, is she going to get like some dry desert?
I'm going to mine the caliche.
So she was explaining that yes, this is a shallow grave, but it's really hard to even get a shallow grave dug in anywhere in the desert, but especially a dry lake bed.
So that lets me know two thoughts.
Okay.
The lake was not dry at the time of the body being dumped, if I'm assuming this was a murder.
Mm-hmm.
But you said something earlier that makes me think it's been dried up for a while. I can't remember. Or they had some heavy duty equipment.
Right. You would think one or the other. Nobody knows at this point. So they are able to carefully kind of dust the dirt from the top of the shallow grave so that they could see the body more clearly. And it was wrapped in 3 large garbage bags. There was major damage to the face and head, major damage to the chest area. So much so that one of the police officers said, this is not a normal homicide. This was a butchering of a corpse.
Yeah, what do you mean? Do we know? I know you know, but like, do we know major damage?
Unrecognizable.
Does that mean, so we don't know how? It's not necessarily known as a stabbing or a bludgeoning.
At this point, they don't know, but like the face is essentially
Caved in.
yes.
Got it.
Chest is very crushed and caved in. It is a mess. It's hard to, you can't identify this person from this. So they transferred the body to the coroner. Coroner? Sorry. Coroner.
Fine.
I don't know what she's whining about. At this point, I feel like I don't even need to.
Could be a javelina.
I don't need to apologize for it because it's just every
Could be a javelina. Right? This is how it started last night.
Oh, well, then that may be all the time because she does this at least twice a day.
Although I don't think
know.
a javelina, I think more nighttime javelina traipsing, but I was all, nothing's happening, Okay.
That's what always happens with her. So they transfer the body to the coroner and investigators begin to search the scene looking for any clues to figure out like, who is this? What is this situation? What happened?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How far outside of Vegas proper is this? Do you know, or
I don't
approximate?
know exactly, but from what I gathered from everything I read and saw, there was no like specific mileage.
Okay, so they drove
is
20 minutes, let's say, something like that.
Essentially.
Okay.
Very close.
Got it.
Very close. And that's the last episode I explained this, that like for people who have only seen Vegas on TV may not understand that if you kind of look at Vegas from an aerial view, it's like just desert.
Well, that's
like,
why I asked.
Boop,
Is this,
like
are we talking Vegas proper? And this what happened, let's say 20-ish minutes outside
yes,
in the desert.
like outside of the suburbs, outside of everything.
Right.
It is in vast desert at this point.
Which also doesn't, you can be in Vegas, the strip and the old strip, that can be 5 minutes drive
Fremont.
around. And then you can go here to the suburbs, 10 minutes around.
And then you're in the middle of the desert.
And then,
And
boom, boom,
that's exactly
you're
it.
on the moon.
And that's what I really need to find a great picture of because I think people, like even I don't think I've been to Vegas a lot of times and it's easy to forget that like it is really this just, it looks like somebody picked up a city and just boop in the middle of the desert.
That's exactly
what
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while they're examining the scene, they find a pile of ash not far from where the body was. And so they start kind of digging through the ash and they find the sole of a shoe, a sneaker it looks like, and buttons from Wrangler jeans. And both of these were pretty much burnt to a crisp.
It's interesting that a sole from a shoe, which you think tends to be rubber-ish,
Yep.
and buttons from Wranglers. Oh, I guess those could be metal.
Yeah.
So whoever killed this person, I'm just saying where my mind goes, burnt their clothes.
And that's what they assumed this must be related to the body that they just found. So they continue to sift through this burn pile and they found a very small corner of what seemed to be a Nevada ID. They couldn't see a name, a picture, anything. It just was like
The corner of the white plastic part.
with like an N where they were able to be like, this is a Nevada ID. So this told them like, okay, if this burn pile is related to this body, this victim is from Nevada.
Or
The murderer is, I guess. But why would they burn their own ID?
maybe, okay, this is where my head goes. Because I thought immediately when you said this pile of ash, and clearly by your face, I think I'm wrong, but the pile of ash, I thought,
they're like
they
burning-
took off their clothes after they murdered the victim.
That could totally be it.
And they, maybe forgot that they had their ID in their pocket.
Yeah. No, that could totally be it. 100%. They also found a couple alcohol bottles laying near the burn pile. So
Maybe
at
that
this
helped
point,
start the fire.
well, investigators are like, okay, is this like there was a party out here, something went wrong, and they just died. They, too much drinking, something. It was just kind of like a casualty of a desert party gone wrong. Or is this somebody that was killed somewhere else and then dumped here? Or was this person killed here? Like
And
there's all these possibilities.
And they don't know the sex of the body.
I don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So they're exploring this scene, and then about 1,000 feet from where the body was found, which is really hard. I'm very bad at distances. I'm great with yards because a yard is 3 feet.
Well, okay, so let's say, I can't do math right now.
I can't either, but it's 1,000 feet is not that far. They're in the same vicinity, clearly.
Yes, I can stand here in the desert and look at 1,000 feet. I can't see all the
details and stuff.
Right.
But they're exploring. They're walking around. So 1,000 feet from where the body was found, they discover a large hole that was recently dug. 8 feet by 6 feet by 8 feet. So
Oh my
whatever
gosh,
way you
they
look at that,
had-
that is deep
well,
and wide. That's a big hole in this
and
lake
that's
bed.
Well, right. That's one thing in a fertile
Soil.
Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest.
Totally. Like the woods. 8 feet in a lake bed. That's
It's
crazy.
someone who works or has access to something.
For sure. Very odd to be in that lake bed. So they were so confused. They were confused as to why the body is in this shallow grave when there's this giant grave not that far away. They don't understand, but like they were like, basically, it doesn't matter. Who cares about this hole? We have to figure out who this victim is
That's
first.
first
Priority.
things first, and
Right.
then let's navigate that one.
So the coroner first x-rayed the body while it was in the body bag. It was a male, naked. And then this is so interesting, and I know that this deserves more of a conversation, but we're not going to have it right now. However,
that's your way of saying don't ask too many questions.
well, they rehydrated 2 of the fingers on the body
Oh, okay.
to get prints, which is so interesting because
I don't actually have questions about
yeah,
that.
I guess that is kind of
because I don't
self-explanatory.
really have it. It is, and also there's so many or a bit of unknown there, but I don't have enough knowledge to ask a question.
I only know from CSI where I've seen them do this. Like a body is very dried out, and
Especially if you're in the Vegas desert.
right, it's impossible. And they inject something into the
To
finger,
puff it up.
and they puff it right up, and they rehydrate it, and then you can get a print off.
Maybe
of
it's
it.
kind of like a
yeah.
balloon.
So they did that, and they were waiting on the prints, and then they began the autopsy, and they found what they called plastic wads, common of shotgun shells fired at close range. They found a 20 gauge wadding, which is the size of someone's thumb, in this body.
Plastic wads.
Yeah, I guess it's part of a shotgun shell, and that only could possibly happen if you're shot at a very close range.
And I wonder
We really need
if
a
that
gun
could-
expert on the show because some of this
we've
shit
got a
confuses.
few.
I know.
But also, I want to know, are plastic wads, could that be any shotgun? Are
No,
all shotguns?
it was a 20 gauge shotgun.
Okay,
so they were
20
able to
gauge.
tell the
Gotcha.
exact size.
Not the make, but the size of bullets.
Which is the size of a thumb, like in your face or chest.
They kill you.
For sure. They also determined from the autopsy that there was severe blunt force trauma to the backside of the head. This person had been hit in the back of the head, and the laceration from being hit with whatever object they were hit with was very, very deep. And then they believed that after the fact, after this victim was killed, they used a large, heavy, blunt object to violently disfigure their face.
Okay, I was waiting for that because earlier you said the
Very disfigured.
Yeah, okay.
It looks like they tried to basically remove all the teeth through blunt force, pulling them out, which way. They were trying to get rid of all of the teeth. They didn't. They missed some of the back teeth. But at this point, officers, detectives are like, this is a very sophisticated and calculated murder. Like someone knew what they were doing. Get rid of the teeth.
I'd say I don't know what sophisticated means. Calculated for sure. Knowledgeable.
Yeah, and maybe
I'm
not
not shitting on
sophisticated.
that about you.
Yeah.
But also, if you're, it makes me wonder if you're gonna go that far to as many teeth as I can get. Why did you stop and miss teeth? You know your own mouth has so many. Like, you don't even have to count. You know there's more teeth back there. If you
Well, right. Why wouldn't you check and make sure they're all gone?
Well,
I'll
find out,
I think
or
it
I
was
won't.
kind of an aggressive, just trying to disfigure.
Yeah. Maybe
this
they
person.
weren't even trying to take out the teeth. Maybe they just did
Well, and
through
this
the
one-
front face lashings
And
or
the
whatever.
one officer said it was clear that they wanted to, whoever did this to this victim that we still don't know, wanted to make sure that they were unrecognizable.
Right.
And one cop said this was just pure evil. Like, they just ruined this person.
So maybe they weren't that sophisticated. Maybe they just bashed
Sophisticated's
them up.
probably a bad word, honestly.
Well, you know more than me, but I'll find out.
So figuring out the time since death was important because the desert kind of lends itself to a very special kind of decomposition as opposed to really anywhere else. It's just a body decomposes differently here based on the extreme temperatures. And in the winter, the temperatures are extreme. I mean, it can be 70 during the day and
The
40 at night, 35.
Less.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll freeze. If you're out in the open desert, it'll freeze. And that I imagine, does a different thing to a body. I also think about if I'm 10, 15, 20 minutes outside of any suburb or city, or maybe even in one off a freeway, there are big birds and vultures that will come and nip and bite at any flesh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, depending on the time of year, this is October. This is going to, this says a lot based on how the body has decomposed. Has it been there just in October? Was it there since July? Because in July, a body is going to decompose in a much different way than it is in September, October, throughout the whole year. It's just very intense temperatures here in the desert in Las Vegas, whether it's high or low.
Can you remind me, and perhaps any listeners, I know the being was very
Disfigured.
messed up. Yeah, disfigured. Was there still like any hairs or skin?
Yes,
Name-
there was.
okay.
There was some skin. There was some hair. It was not
It
a
wasn't-
skeleton.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was not. So the coroner, after performing after performing the autopsy and examining the body, estimated that the body had been there for about 2 weeks.
Okay, so beginning of October.
Yeah. They couldn't identify who it was exactly, but it was a white male, early 20s was their best guess.
How do they know white? Oh, skin. There was still some skin on there.
There was skin, and then also male based on, I don't think there was much skin from what I gather.
But I wondered how they knew it was white male.
The skin that was left on
and
there.
then male because of this area.
Pelvis. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm on this area.
and so they were like, well, our best chance of solving this, we have to figure out who this is first, obviously. This is
and
a
the fingerprints
John Doe.
did nothing.
Ran the fingerprints, no match. There was nothing in the system. So there was really no other evidence for that. Like, no fingerprints. There's nothing. The body had been there for 2 weeks. Even though it was October, it had decomposed a lot. Animals, just the elements. There wasn't a ton.
all they could. They took all the information, it sounds like, that they could from the body, the being.
Yes.
And it sounds like there wasn't much, I imagine. The detectives or whoever officers walked a mile this way, a mile this way, a mile this way, a mile this way.
Totally.
And there was
It was
nothing.
the sole of the shoe,
Yep.
the Wrangler jean buttons, and that deep hole. And that was really it.
It's fine.
So the case kind of stalled
I bet.
for several months. Over the next 3 to 4 months, investigators kind of were at a loss. So they thought, well, let's look into missing people in the area and even outside of this area. So they
that
started,
makes sense.
Yeah, they started going through missing persons reports.
White males.
White males. And in February, so this is October,
3 months later.
February, they discover a missing persons report for a missing teen. And even though they thought that this victim was in his 20s, they were like, well, this is the closest we've gotten. So let's just see. So the report was made by Patricia Knight, They called her. She gave a concerning account of her son, teenage son, Jared Whaley, who had been missing for 4 months. She said on October 15th, Jared was supposed to come home, and he didn't. And she says, I thought maybe he went to San Diego to visit his friend Patrick, who was in the military. And she was like, but that would have made sense. I was really just trying to convince myself that he was okay. He would never leave without telling me.
I imagine he was an older teenager, like 18, 19, 17, 18, 19, something, where his parent was trying to like allow him to be, but also very worried.
Yep. And so on the third day after he went missing, she reported him missing after the first day to the police.
On the 16th or something.
Right. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll take your report. But, you know, and then after 3 days, she was like, something is wrong. This is very unlike Jared. So she went to Nevada Child Seekers, which is a missing persons organization that helps people who are missing people. And she went to them for extra help. They made 1,000 posters. They hung them up everywhere. And she was really in close contact with his friends. He had this very close group of friends that they even had a name for themselves. They called themselves the Crew. And it was like 5 or 6 other teenagers that they were all very close with. She knew them well for many, many years. And she had said, like, they offered me so much support. They came over after I realized, like, he's missing. They would come over every day and be like, have you heard from Jared? What do you need? Nothing. Nothing came from the Nevada Child Seekers. Nothing came from the police. November came and went. December came and went. And so now we're in February where the police have found this body. January came and went. Sorry. So the police have found this body, and then, you know, they're searching missing people reports, and they find Patricia. So they talk to her. So the police and investigators realized that Jared went missing 11 days before the body was assumed to be killed.
Because they found him the body on the 24th?
26th.
26th.
Yeah.
And he was missing. Yeah.
Yeah, the 26th.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I lost my place.
That's fine.
So they realized that Jared went missing 11 days before the body was assumed to be killed. Again, that's just a general timeline, but it kind of fits. So they asked Patricia for Jared's dental records. And on February 12th, they were able to make a positive ID that this was Jared Whaley. And they told Patricia, your son has been the victim of a homicide. It was really sad to see her talk about this because she said she always believed he would really come home. She thought maybe he just like needed some time, some space. She was like, in the back of my mind, I just believed he would keep walking through that door.
Yeah. I think that's a natural response of like.
I think it's also a self-defense mechanism to like
a
preserve.
Survival.
Yeah. Survival. Yeah.
Of like.
Yeah.
These things happen, but not to me. Mm-hmm. I've had that thought, and then certain things have happened to me.
Totally.
Okay, that sounds
Me
way
too.
worse. I don't mean it in that way, but
I think all the time we all feel like we're a little bit invincible sometimes,
or my loved ones are. Yeah.
So just to so we started with this body, so we're going to kind of backtrack. I'm just going to tell you briefly a little bit about Jared. So Jared was born in October 1985. He was born in Glendale, California. Patricia moved herself and Jared, her son, to Vegas after her mother died. She described Jared as being really loud, but very friendly. Really loved all the people in his life. Like he would do anything. He'd give you the shirt off his back. She said he was really funny, or he thought he was.
Yeah.
And she said he always wanted to be the center of attention. He was quite popular. Everyone in their little community really knew who he was. He was a good kid. He loved working out and he loved working on cars. I saw a video of him that he had made, I'm assuming for social media, where he was like taking this car apart in his garage and showing like, this is the engine and this is how you take this out. And like,
but social media, wasn't this 2003 that he died?
I guess not social media then. Then it must have just been like a home video.
Yeah. That they put on social media.
Right.
So he born in 85. He was 18.
Yeah, he was young. Yeah, he was still in high school.
Yeah.
So he really wanted to join. He was a senior in high school when this happened. He wanted to join the Marines after high school. His stepbrother Kyle said he had no enemies. Like, they were kind of at a loss. Like, Jared was, which I think is kind of a common thing throughout a lot of these. Of course, when someone dies, people speak very highly of them and
To their
they were
best
loved.
parts.
Right, exactly. But it did seem like this was a kid who, he wasn't a perfect kid, but he was like really a kind of like a good, wholesome, happy kid.
Well, even if he wasn't, the part that you said of whoever, a loved one, said he didn't have any enemies, because that's not said every time, right? Like, they were wonderful. They were amazing, as I'm sure parts of whoever has passed
Sure.
via this way are. Also, that's something different.
Yeah. He had no enemies, his stepbrother said. And his mom was like, so we were like, who did he try and was he trying to get out to visit his friend Patrick? Was he hitchhiking? And then somebody said, was it the mob? So apparently people who live in Vegas, like, that is still an actual thought in people's heads.
Oh, well, now I think it's the mob.
Which is crazy to me that people still think that. I mean, yes, this was 2003, but still, 20 years ago, the mob is still...
Well, the mob is still going. I don't know about Vegas, but...
Well, yeah, of course it's still going
the mob
today.
is still a thing.
Totally.
But we also don't live in Vegas, so there's nuanced things about every place, right?
That's true.
Totally.
That's true. And so when I heard that, I was like, really? Like, this 18-year-old kid, you think maybe it's the mob? But they did, because he lived in this small little suburban community outside of Vegas. And everyone was shocked. Like, they knew who he was. He would always work on his car in the driveway and in the garage. And it was weird. So police started going. Their first order of business was to go door to door in this community. And nothing. No one... Allegedly, no one saw anything. No one heard anything. So police then head to the high school. They're like, we're going to ask his friends questions. So they start questioning his friends. And police said that people were genuinely stunned. Like, Jared, like, why? They couldn't understand it. And so then they decided to talk to his best friends, his crew, as they called themselves. Matt, Shane, Cody, and... another Shane. There were two Shanes. And then also Jared. And Patricia had told the police, like, they helped so much. They were always here every day. And so the police talked to them. And the crew, I'm saying that with like air quotes.
But that's what they called themselves, right?
Yeah, I guess air quotes don't really make sense because that is what they called themselves. So I'll say it with no air quotes. The crew.
Matt, Shane,
Cody.
times 2.
Yeah. Yes, Shane times 2. Matt, Cody, and Jared, they hung out at a place, and they told the police this, called The Hill. And it was about 18 miles from where Jared's body was found. It's not actually a hill. It's a pit. And they would do bonfires down in the bottom of the pit because you couldn't see it from the main road. So it allowed them to kind of be like hidden down there. And it was like a very common party place for a lot of teens in the area.
Did it used to be a lake?
I kind of got I don't know, but that kind of makes sense that it was.
What else
was like
would have it been?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a recessed ravine type area.
That's the word. Recessed, yeah.
So they said, we went there a lot. We were there a lot. Jared was here a lot. And the police said, well, where was he the days leading up? And they said, well, yeah, on October 14th, he was here. We were all here drinking. So Patricia filed a missing persons on October 16th.
Got it.
So police went to the hill and they searched to see if there was any kind of evidence, like maybe he was killed here, and then moved to the lake 18 miles away. They really didn't find anything.
Just to see if anything could connect with anything, I imagine.
Nothing. So they continued to talk to his classmates, and they talked to a girl named Nicole. And she said, well, I overheard Jared's best friend, Matt Baker, part of the crew. And Matt was in class one day when I was walking by, and he was bragging about beating up another kid, Jamal, at the hill. He was saying, like, yeah, I kicked the shit out of Jamal at the hill the other night. And police were like, okay. And so they took this and they went and talked to Matt again. They're looking at Matt. They're like, Matt's a really small kid. He's like not a big kid. Jared, however, was a big kid. He was really muscular. He enjoyed working out. He was pretty kind of
beefed up.
Right. So they were thinking, well, maybe they're best friends. Maybe Jared was like helping Matt.
Stepped in.
Right. And like took over for this fight with Jamal. And the fallout of this is maybe why he was killed. So they go to talk to Matt Baker. And Matt Baker's like, I never had a fight with Jamal. That didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about. And I definitely wouldn't brag about it. Police are like, okay, but we're still going to look for Jamal. So they start looking for Jamal to see if he was beat up by Matt or Jared, if he's holding a grudge. So they contact the Clark County School District and they're like, can you run the name Jamal through all the schools in the area? We just want to know any Jamals.
I bet there's a lot.
There's
None?
0. No Jamals.
Oh.
Not a one.
Wow.
Like, okay, so we're back to square one now.
I would say, okay, what could Jamal be not short for, but
A nickname
Jeremiah?
for?
I don't know.
I don't think that like Jamal is really.
It's a full name.
It's a full
Period.
name. Yeah.
Huh.
So they're like, okay,
Ooh, so was that young lady throwing?
a red herring.
Yeah. I was just going to say throwing them off, but that's a better way to describe it.
So investigators are like, okay, we got to go back to like square one. We're at the drawing board. And while they're kind of figuring out like where to restart this investigation, Jared's family had his funeral February 26th, 2004. It was so packed. There were so many people in this at his funeral that they were spilling out into the hall, out into this, like it was so packed. There was lots of speeches, lots of friends talk. They played his favorite songs. And the whole time his stepbrother was like, said that he was looking around wondering like,
One of you bitches did this.
One of you did this. Who did this? And why? And he said like he couldn't settle on an answer. Like there is no why. So Patricia, Jared's mom, said before he came home from school, before he disappeared, I'm sorry, not before he came home from school, before he disappeared, he came home from school that day. Patricia was doing laundry. And she said he walked into the house after school and he said, Mom, where are you? And she said, I'm over here. And she came out and he walked up to her and gave her a big hug and said, I love you so much. And Patricia said after the fact, after knowing that he was dead, she said, like, I wonder if he knew something bad was going to happen, because she's like, it felt almost like he was saying goodbye without saying goodbye.
Right. So that lets me know that wasn't which is understandable, a typical thing for him to every time poignantly be like, I love you so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So police are like, well, we're at square. We have nothing. So let's go back to the people closest to him. The crew, Shane Myers, Matt Baker, Cody Myers, Steven Stringfield. That's who I left out before. And Shane Johnson. So 2 Shanes and Matt, Cody, and Steven. And Cody and one of the Shanes are brothers. So they all kind of self-identified as the crew. And when police were like, why? Like, why do you call yourself that? And they said, because of we love mafia movies. So their favorite movie was, they loved The Sopranos and they loved Casino. Mm-hmm. And they loved the Vegas history of kind of like mob rule in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And they really kind of tried to embody that and play into that. Apparently, they also drank a lot. Some other classmates told the police that the crew was known for doing beer heists from local stores.
Oh, like run in and grab a 30 rack?
They grab in. They grab in?
Well, I just said run in and grab. So.
They'd run in and grab bottles of Jack and rum and cases of beer and run out without paying. And then they go to the hill and go drinking. So Jared's stepbrother said, like, I knew about the beer heists and I knew they were kind of stealing alcohol, but like they were just kids. Like this is like minor. No say what?
That's at least once I moved here, like that's a thing that people did in high school.
Really?
I said 30 rack. I've never said that since I'm going to, but that's what, let's grab a 30 rack. Like, yes, people would run in a Safeway or a Fry's.
Grab it and run out.
And then go to the wash.
That makes sense.
So desert life, man. It's rough.
And so that's what Jared's stepbrother was like, yeah, I knew about this, but like it wasn't major. It was like silly, petty theft.
Yeah, it doesn't, at least on the surface, doesn't indicate to me
anything like very deep and evil.
It means like you're a reckless, impulsive high school kid.
Wants to get a little bit drunk.
Totally.
Yeah. And so he said they would occasionally do this. There was some petty vandalism. He was like, they'd knock over a mailbox or this, like really nothing. So with nothing else to go on, police are like, okay, well, this sounds minor, but maybe the petty theft and vandalism kind of escalated to more.
Could be.
And somehow this theft or stealing, like maybe this led to Jared's death.
Maybe they amped it up, and they stole from the wrong person or something. Yeah.
Stole from the wrong person. So police continue to speak to the crew, and they're eager to kind of find out, like, do these boys know more than they're letting on? Because up until now, they've been pretty forthcoming. So they start with, they decide to like talk to them one-on-one, bring them in one at a time. So they bring in Shane and Cody Myers and talk to them separately. They're brothers. They are both their parents are physicians. They are very wealthy. They were said to be like born with silver spoons in their mouth. Like these boys have led a good life thanks to their parents. So they decide to actually go to Shane and Cody's house. And so they arrive at Shane and Cody's house. They're like, hey, we just want to ask you a few more questions. And Shane and Cody are like, yeah, come in. Parents aren't there. And as police walk in, they notice a really elaborate and very beautiful gun cabinet. There are some really exotic shotguns in it. And one of the police officers was kind of standing there while the other one was talking to them. And he's looking in. He's noticing, like, these are really dusty guns. There's a lot of dusty guns. But there's one.
Oh, interesting.
That has no dust on it at all.
Now,
and
were there any gunshot wounds?
Yeah, remember the gun?
That's
shot,
right. Yeah,
gauge.
Thank you.
So they're talking to the boys, and
that's an eye.
Shane, the brother, notices them looking at the gun cabinet, and he says, "This is not an exact quote, but this is essentially what he said. He said, "You guys came here to harass us. I know why you're talking to us. You're talking to us because you found a 20 gauge shotgun wound, and that's not fair. You can't harass us like this." And both of the cops immediately thought this. That was never released to the public.
Also, even if it was, because I didn't actually put that together.
Well, I never said that. Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't say that.
So that was never released to the public, that it was a 20 gauge wad that they found in the body. But Shane just incriminated himself instantly by saying that, because the mechanism of death had not been released. So this was very damning evidence. But investigators at this point are like, okay, we have to play this carefully, because, like, is it just this one kid, or is it all of these boys? And these kids are very wealthy, well-to-do parents. They're going to have good lawyers. Like, we have to really, let's pedal it back.
I'd say let's literally step backwards and say, thank you, boys.
Yep.
And go back to the office and reconvene.
And so they kind of reconvened, and then they decided to bring in the other Shane Johnson. So this is Shane and
part of the crew, right?
Part of the crew.
Not the brothers,
right?
But
Shane and
Shane.
Cody Myers have the gun cabinet,
Yeah.
but Shane Johnson, and I don't know why, but they decided to bring him in.
Well, he's just maybe there was no rhyme or reason. He was just the next one on the list.
So all this happened. They left. Thank you so much. And then they bring in Shane Johnson, and I saw the interview with him, and when I tell you, this kid spilled his beans with almost zero, push, they were
no prompting,
almost nothing. They were
oh, he was like he became a teenage kid instead of just a teenage young adult.
He just,
he
he was like,
okay, I don't mean so much, but
he was like, yeah, Yes, the crew. Yes, we were involved. Everyone was involved. We were all involved in
Why
this.
do you think he did it so quickly? Just because he was a kid and scared?
I
Or
think
do
he
you
was
think?
scared.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering if there's like a deeper thing, but that's where my mind went.
And
he was just
doesn't-
scared.
He didn't. I mean, he was obviously a teenager, but he wasn't like a teeny little. Like he was like I could think he was 22, 3, 4,
Sure.
5.
But that's his outward appearance.
But he immediately started crying.
Where's his inward,
Oh, he was
emotional,
so
and
scared.
intelligent? Yeah, exactly.
And
you
so
can look a
he-
whole lot of ways.
And he admitted that, and then he said, "Where do you guys want me to start?" Like, okay, let me start from the beginning. And they had said, like, "Well, why do you call yourself the Crew?" And he said, "Well, we formed it around the movie Casino, and Matt is our leader. He's kind of like the Godfather, and Matt like." At first, we kind of all thought it was kind of just like a joke. Like, we're this crew. We're running this criminal empire, but we really weren't.
We're running into grocery stores and stealing beers and,
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
But Matt took it a little far.
Oh.
He really wanted it to be more than just stealing beer. And so Shane said Matt came up with the entire plan to kill Jared.
But why? I'm sure you'll get there.
I'm going to get there right now. So before the plan to kill Jared, Matt had decided we have to start like selling some drugs to make some money. So Matt met somebody, one or the other, that had meth. And he was like, we're going to start selling some meth. They started selling meth. Mostly Matt was selling it, but he kind of they all knew. He wanted them all to be in on it.
They were a crew.
They were a crew. And Matt started to grow. Jared was not into it. Jared was like, I want to join the Marines. I'm not interested in being I want to be part of the crew, but I'm not going to sell drugs. I don't want to be included in this. I don't want to do this. And Matt grew increasingly paranoid that Jared was not only not wanting to be involved, but that he was going to rat them out.
Well, I was just going to say, once you show disinterest.
Yes.
And you've been exposed to what your crew is doing illegally.
Yep.
That makes the rest of the crew uneasy.
So the rest of the crew really wasn't, but Matt managed to convince them.
But also Matt was the main bro.
He was the leader.
Doing the shit. So of course he would be the most uneasy, right?
And so he convinced all of them, like, Jared's going to tell on us. He's going to turn us in. We have to take care of him. And so the kind of crew mentality plus the selling meth, which makes them all a bit guilty, plus the casino, we're a crew, we're going to take care of people. And they're also teenage boys.
We all stick together, one for all and all for one.
Yep. So he said, we got to figure out how to kill Jared. We got to get rid of him so none of us get in trouble. And apparently they tried several times to kill Jared. Really stupid ways, though. Like I couldn't understand this when I read about this, but they would always go to the hill and drink. And so one time Matt took like a full pack of cigarettes and took all the tobacco out, let it dry out, and then
put it in his beer.
Okay,
that's not going to kill someone. Have you ever? I recall being at a party in high school or college where I'd pick up a beer. No one put a whole pack of cigarettes.
Dumped a cigarette butt in there.
It's
of course.
disgusting as
Makes
shit.
you sick. Right.
It would make him totally sick. It's not going to kill him.
And it did. It made him very sick.
But again, these are 17-ish year old boys.
I think the other way they tried is they put a bunch of Visine in one of his beers. Again, makes him sick. Not going to kill him.
But haven't you heard that?
Totally. I think that's actually true. I think Visine in your drink, it does do, probably not to us. Both of us have pretty strong stomachs. But I think for somebody with like a weaker stomach, Visine does have something in it that can really like upset your stomach.
Sure, it can make you sick.
Not going to kill you. For sure. So
let's try it.
They failed all these ways.
Oh, those are very, like, I don't mean this. I mean that how it sounds. Very simplistic ways.
Yes. And that's when, so Shane is telling the police this. This is March 5th, by the way. And that's when Matt kind of came up with he's like, this is the way we're going to kill him. And Shane said, it was really sad to see this. Shane said, my life is finally starting to go right. Like I have a job, I have a girlfriend, my brother's in jail and I managed to avoid jail. I really wish I could like change time. If I could,
Shane,
I would.
You back out. You just step backwards and go. I get it wouldn't be easy, but if he could have told the police, he would have been okay.
So he said 2 weeks before Jared went missing, Matt got Cody and Shane Myers, the brothers, and took them to a remote location, asked them to dig a hole, a really big, big hole. And they did. It took them a really long time, but they dug a big hole and they nicknamed it the double wide. And Shane nicknamed it the double wide, Shane Johnson, not the rich brother. He said, I nicknamed it that. He helped because my whole life I grew up in a single wide trailer and this hole was bigger than it. So I nicknamed it the double wide.
I want to know what they dug that with.
I don't know.
Shovels, perhaps. It did
Pickaxe.
take them.
Yeah, it took them a while.
Oh, okay.
It was not, I mean, this was weeks before they murdered him. So then on the night that Matt told them this is happening tonight, they decided they were going to lure Jared out of his bedroom. So they started throwing kind of pebbles at his window. And he opened up his window and he was like, no, guys, I'm not coming to the hill. I have school tomorrow. I'm not coming. And they said, we know that you don't want to like necessarily like be part of the crew, sell meth. You know, we know you don't want to do that anymore. This will be our last hurrah. Last hurrah. Let's just do one more.
Oh.
And they said, we're going to go off-roading out in the desert. Come on, you got to come. And he was like, fine. One last fun night, I'll come. Little does he know that ahead of this, they had already dug this hole, and Matt Baker had assigned everyone in the crew a specific job to help kill Jared. So Shane, at this point, took the police out to where Jared was killed, and they reenacted it, and I saw this, and it was chilling. So Shane's job was to have a stun gun. So they took Jared out there, and they're all acting like, yeah, we're going to have some drinks. We're going to party.
They're just hanging, yeah.
Right. And so they all get out of this truck, and Shane walks up and stuns Jared with a stun gun. And Jared's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why are you doing that? They start wrestling a little bit. And then the other Shane comes up and hits Jared over the head with a tire iron. That was his job. And then Matt said to Cody, go get the shotgun from the back of the truck. Because Jared is now disoriented, has been hit over the head, has been stunned with a stun gun, has been hit over the head with a tire iron.
He's 50% of himself.
Yeah. So Matt says, Cody, go get the shotgun from the back of the truck. Cody goes and gets the shotgun, hands it to Matt. Jared finally gets up and is facing Matt like, what is going on? I mean, a tire iron. And Matt shoots him in the chest, point blank, maybe 5-6 feet away.
Oh my, that makes it
Jared
a lot
goes
worse.
Down.
That close.
And then he stands up again.
Adrenaline.
And Matt walks up closer and shoots him in the head.
And then he goes down, I imagine.
And then he goes down for good. And they pour tequila all over him.
To burn
burn his clothes. They want his clothes to burn off of him.
Oh, so it did do that trick, kind of.
It did.
Yeah.
And then they're ready to bury him. But it's dark, and they can't find the hole.
And they've been drinking, I bet.
Absolutely. So they can't find that huge double wide hole that they dug. So they were like, fuck it. We'll bury him right here.
Yeah, they probably were in like, let's get the F out of here.
Right. So they wrapped him up in bags and started to try and dig a hole and bury him. And they realized they couldn't really dig a hole at this point. It was not going to be a deep enough hole. And they were like, well, we just have to make sure no one knows who he is. So they started beating him after the fact that he was dead with their feet, with the tire iron, with whatever they had, because he was all now wrapped up in a bag. So they're not necessarily
They don't have to
seeing
see
him.
it.
Right.
Yeah, that was quote unquote helpful for them.
Yes.
That's insane. You know what I wish? I know you have more to say. I just want to make a side note. I
don't
wish
have that much more to say.
that after they got done doing whatever awfulness they were to him, that they were walking back to the car, wherever it was, and one of them fell in the double wide.
Oh my gosh, I wish.
That
And
would
then
have
a
been
coyote
amazing.
jumped
Yeah.
and ate him.
Oh, how awful. They must have been drinking, though, because they couldn't dig a hole that well right now, right? Yeah.
So police, this is all being told to police, and the police are out at the actual site, and Shane's showing them, and they're just floored. I mean, they can't believe that these high school boys who were best friends with Jared for years killed him in such a brutal way. So they immediately start making arrests. Shane Myers, one of the brothers, lawyered up, wouldn't speak, wouldn't cooperate, as well as Matt Baker, the ringleader. Shane Johnson, who took them to the place and everything, he obviously confessed and was very
Forthcoming.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cody Myers, which is interesting, the brother to Shane Myers, the other Shane is lawyered up and not talking. Cody Myers fully confessed as well. He was the younger brother, I believe, and his story matched Shane Johnson's story.
I wonder who got a quote-unquote better sentence.
Oh, I'll tell you, because it is shocking. And this is really, I couldn't find much more on this. So this
The
is
lawyered
the
up
end.
ones got the better sentence?
So eventually the entire crew had to plead guilty. There was just no way around it. Before I tell you what their sentences were, as detectives were wrapping up this investigation, they were still confused about the Jamal rumor.
Oh, yeah.
Who's Jamal? And they kept digging, and somebody eventually let it go that Jamal was just the name that Matt Baker had come up with for Jared. That was his code name. It's not actually that exciting, but at least
that's interesting.
makes
I
sense.
forgot about that. Yeah.
So November 3rd, 2006, all of the members of the crew were sentenced.
3 years later.
Stephen, who really had a very minor role. I actually don't even think I said what he did. He was just kind of there. He got 6 months in jail.
Okay.
Cody, who really, from what I could tell, all he did was hand Matt Baker the gun. He got 5 years in prison. Shane Johnson, who confessed, took them to the site. He's the first one to break. He got 20 years in prison.
Okay.
Shane Myers got 25 years to life. He hit him with the crowbar.
Yeah.
And Matt Baker got 35 years and is eligible for parole in 2039.
25 years in 2006. So that was, eligible for parole.
Well, Shane Myers got 25 years. Matt got 35.
35.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So
that makes sense.
2039. So what, 15 years from now, he'll be eligible for parole.
Right, but this was 2006 they got sentenced. So 35 years from there is 2041.
Oh, it might have been time served because they were held in until they were sentenced.
Yeah,
they were
that still
probably
makes sense
held.
to me. No, that still makes
But
sense.
Shane Johnson or Shane Myers and Shane Johnson, one got 20, one got 25. This was 2006. So that's 20 years. Shane Johnson's probably getting out in 2 years. If
he's not
out.
well, what do you mean if
Or
he gets out?
Well, if he's not already, you're right.
Oh, I thought you meant like if he died in prison.
Well, that could be too.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I couldn't really find anything about where they are now.
that's
which would be-
interesting.
I would really like to
Oh,
know.
very interesting.
I mean,
I don't
do you
know.
the vastness in those sentences, though. Steven,
Yeah, but they all
6
did
months?
so. But you prefaced it with he really didn't do anything.
He really didn't. He really
so
didn't.
Actually, to me, I'm not saying they're. I don't
I
know
guess
what
that's
a
true. Matt Baker
correct
got the most.
correct
He
sentence,
was the-
but it did kind of tick up as they were
did.
more and more
You're right.
involved.
But don't you think Matt Baker should have gotten life? He killed him in
Well,
cold blood. He
wasn't it
organized the
2
whole
life?
plan.
Was it 2 life? One of them was 2 life.
Shane Myers, the brother who lawyered
2
up,
life.
was 25 years to life. He's the one who hit him in the head with the crowbar tire iron.
Well, people probably see that as the beginning of his murder. I mean, I have no idea.
It's so interesting. I can't totally remember, but whatever story I told last week, it was like the sentence was so small that it was...
Then that meant they had good lawyers
It was
or they
shocking.
couldn't prove.
It was just so shocking. And I think what I said, I can't totally remember, to Mark was like, in all the stories me and Jenna have done, it is really interesting to see that like some of the most horrific crimes end up getting like 40 years. When some of the every crime is horrific, but some seemingly less horrific crimes get like life or 2 life sentences.
But do you know why? Or in general, my mind goes to, okay,
Lawyers.
Lawyers, but proof of how much evidence they left around,
Yeah.
whoever they are.
That's true.
Or the
I guess
cops
this was
found, because prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So it's about, sure, great lawyers, right? Great lawyers and the ultimate deed. Yes, of course. But also what the evidence is.
I'll be really interested for you if you do watch this, The Good Wife at all, because watching them argue criminal cases, murder cases, it really is. It is 100%. Yes, evidence is a huge part, but it is really the level of lawyer that you have that is able to find a loophole of this, of that, and argue it
Of course.
in such a different
and
way.
Then also, we're all human and everyone's human. Juries.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then certain law, even if everyone in that room, whatever room, I'm not talking about this case specifically, knows the person fucking did it. If it's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt,
And
doesn't matter.
Even I watch, and again, this is TV. I'm talking about how I just flipped to TV, but there was one episode where like the jury was very much on the side of like, this woman did not do it. She didn't do it. It was very clear she didn't do it. The evidence pointed that way, and the jury was really like, they had the jury. They broke for lunch. They came back, and the jury voted her guilty. And then the episode is about them kind of digging in to see like,
what changed.
Why? Like what changed? Because you're allowed to talk to the jury after that.
So there must have been one or two jurors that felt this person did it or something, and then
it was what they ended up finding out was it was a little more complex, but ultimately several jurors turned because it was like,
I want to go home.
I want to get out of here.
Of course. Oh, of course.
And that is so.
But that's not the problem. To me, that's not the problem with the jurors themselves. Yes, they're human, and that sucks. And
Oh my God,
take
it
your,
sucks.
Gyllenhaal in that show said in the opening scene of the first episode, he was blah, blah, blahing. And I mean that in a good way about his duty as a lawyer. To if this comes out as she could have or so and so could have done it, well then, and I'm here to do
my job. You do your job.
He said it way better.
But that was a great way to start.
Yes,
that
it was.
Show.
Also,
So good.
even let's say all the jurors, which of course they don't have the best intentions all the time.
Of course they don't.
Not that they have a side, but they're just like, I don't want to be here from the beginning.
Totally.
That's so like, yeah. There's so many factors.
People's fate is left up to so much.
So many factors.
So many factors. And I mean, obviously these boys, most of them deserved it, but like also makes me very horribly sad for Patricia and Jared's family, but also sad for a lot of these boys that kind of, I feel like we're going along, your decisions have consequences, but along with somebody.
We're still in high school and
Right.
our brain, like, again, not again.
No, I agree.
Your brains aren't fully formed. Yes, you can make better decisions, but
Yeah.
I think those are some of the, I don't want to say saddest.
It is. No, I think it's
but
sad.
the most kind of, where
That's a heartbreaking
you
story.
make an impulsive, shitty decision as a 17-year-old.
Ruins your life.
You're fucked.
Ruin
But
their lives.
you know what?
If
Such
anybody-
is life, I guess. I don't know.
If anybody knows this story or knows where any of these boys are, I would be very curious to see kind of what happened to each of them. Yeah. A little bit of a different story, kind of told
I liked
backwards.
it.
But
I like it.
yeah, and
I like that a lot.
yeah, I kind of liked it better telling it from like the crime and not introducing you to the people first. I kind of liked that.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and hopefully, hopefully we did this story justice. Our thoughts go out to everyone involved, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Happy Sunday. Good night and good luck.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, good night and good luck.